Howdy do, folks, and welcome to the first ever episode of Chambered in History, where we are embarking on a mission to uncover the wild, explosive, and fascinating history of every single bullet cartridge ever made. Ever. Before we get into the more specific cartridges like the 30-06 Springfield, the 9mm Luger, as I have here, or the mysterious 7.62 by 33mm Kurz, we've got to lay the foundation, or the groundwork. And so today we're going to talk about what actually makes a cartridge tick. Specifically, the Centerfire cartridge, as you can see here. And technically shotguns are centerfires. So buckle up, because this is what lays the foundation for everything to come. So what even is a cartridge? Well, let's start with the basics. A modern cartridge is otherwise known as a shell or a round, is a self-contained package composed of four main parts: a case, a primer, a projectile, usually lead or copper, and a propellant, usually smokeless powder. You fire it, it goes bang, and out comes the bullet, right? Seems simple enough. But it wasn't always that simple. Early firearms had you loading ball, patch, and powder all separately, with a big old ramrod in the middle of the battlefield. I mean, it was like assembling IKEA furniture in the middle of a battlefield. I mean, imagine, you don't even like doing it at home. Imagine doing it while you're getting shot at. It does not sound fun, does it? I didn't think so. So they were all they were messy and they were slow. Paper cartridges weren't even that great. I mean, imagine if you get a paper cartridge a little wet and it just falls apart in your hand. That would suck. In fact, if any of them got wet, they were completely screwed. I mean, a rainstorm could switch us all to swords. It was garbage. But cartridges fixed all that. They streamlined the entire process, improving safety, reliability, and making reloads so much faster. So there are two main types of metallic cartridges. We have centerfire and we have rimfire. Now, rimfire has a primer that is spun into the bottom of the case. I don't actually, here, hang on. I do have rimfires. Okay, so here's a rimfire. As you can see, there's no definitive primer because it is basically that whole rim around there is the primer. So they're not reusable or reloadable, so they're not ideal, as well as the fact that the cases are usually much thinner, so they're only made in smaller calibers, like the .22 long rifle. Some of the more higher power rimfires are the 17 HMR, 17 WSN, the fastest rimfire in the world. At least it was last time I checked. And the 22 mag. But other than that, they're really not used for larger calibers or higher powers because they just can't handle the pressures. Centerfire cartridges, on the other hand, are much different. They are built for the pressures. They have a primer that is smack dab in the center of the case head. That little cap gets struck by a firing pin or a hammer in some cases, and ignites the powder and sends the bullet flying out the end of the barrel. It's safer, more powerful, and reloadable. So what's not to love about it, really? So why did Centerfire become the king of the cartridges? There are three words: power, reliability, and reloadability. Rimfire rounds are basically the disposable camera of the cartridge world. You can't reload them, at least not that I know of. I don't know if you actually can, but I know if you actually can, but I know if you can, it's probably very complicated, and that's another thing I probably should have looked into before I said this. But centerfire cases, on the other hand, they're plenty reloadable. All you got to do is pop out the old primer, put in a new one, some powder, and some bullet, or a bullet, and you're ready to shoot again. You can push it to higher pressures than before. You can tweak the seat depth. I mean, there's a whole wide range of what you can do when it comes to reloading yourself. When it comes to like tweaking the performance of it or the accuracy or whatever you want, there's a lot of things you can do to affect how you're shooting. And for that reason, it is ideal for hunters and militaries alike, as well as paper shooters, because like I discussed, hand loading can achieve greater accuracy than factory loads a lot of times. It just takes a lot of trial and error from the reloader himself. So if you pop open a centerfire cartridge, you will find four key parts. You'll find the case, which is the brass case that it's in. You'll find the primer, which is a little button on the back of it that is filled with impact sensitive explosives. You'll find the powder, the bang fuel, again, usually smokeless. Older powders weren't smokeless, and therefore the second you shot, it was like you threw a smoke grenade. And eventually they fixed that. And then you have the projectile, the bullet, you know, the thing that you want flying out there and hitting whatever you're aiming at. And usually with some accuracy, unless you're a bad shot. It's a marvel of compact engineering. Even the shape of the case matters. A bottleneck rifle case, for example, funnels all of the expanding gases down to a smaller point to increase velocity. Just like you holding your thumb over a water hose, it does the same thing with a bullet. It takes all that gas that's expanding in the back and the bigger part of the case and shoves it through that little hole, and out goes the bullet much faster than it would if it was a straight wall. That's why usually straight wall cartridges aren't quite as fast of bullets. They may be powerful because they may be slinging out a heavy bullet, but if it's not a heavy bullet, they're usually not all that powerful. In fact, there are even some states in the US that you're only allowed to hunt deer with straight wall cartridges. I'm assuming because they're not as powerful. I always found it weird. I live in Texas and we don't have that rule, but yeah, some states actually have that rule where you can only use straight wall cartridges for deer. But let's zoom in on that primer for a second. What's inside that little metal cap, you may be wondering? Well, it is a priming compound, a specifically formulated mixture that detonates when it's struck. Early primers used mercuric fulminate, I think I got it right that time, which worked great, but would eat up your barrel like no other as it was corrosive and would leave behind corrosive residue. Later, chlorate-based primers were used, which were still corrosive, but much more stable. Today, we mostly use non-corrosive lead-based primers in our bullets. They're reliable, long-lasting, and don't eat your gun alive, which is important because we paid a lot of money for these things. I'd rather it not get dissolved by the bullets that it shoots. Some modern ammo even uses lead-free primers, but a lot of shooters have strong opinions and they don't quite trust its reliability quite yet. So yeah, there's a whole lot of chemistry packed into something that's, I mean, the size of my shirt button, if not smaller. Yeah, it's smaller. Quite marvelous. Now here's where it gets nerdy. Not all Centerfire primers are the same. We have boxer primers, popular in the US, Go Team, which have one central flash hole and are very easy to reload. And then we have bird end primers used by the heathens, also known as Europeans, which have two off-center flash holes and a built-in anvil, making them much trickier to reload. They both go bang just fine, but one is much easier to reload than the other, and reloaders have very strong opinions, like we've talked about. And if you're into collecting cartridges, you'll learn to find, and if you're into collecting cartridges, you'll learn to find, and if you're into, damn it, they both go jank, but and if you're into collecting cartridges, you'll learn to spot the difference in a heartbeat. So most Centerfire cartridges are made of brass. It's strong, corrosion resistant, and it seals in the chamber very well. In the earlier days, before we got brass or came to the conclusion that it needed to be brass, they used just copper, which turned out to be too soft. It would not handle the higher pressures that they were trying to push it to, and it would split and crack, and it was just dangerous. So then they found out if you sprinkle a little bit of zinc in there, you get brass, specifically a usually 70-30 split, 70% copper, 30% zinc. And it made it much stronger and still easy to work with, but it could hold up to the higher pressures. We also have steel, which is very cheap. You can still buy steel ammo today. However, it is not reloadable and not quite as corrosion resistant. And then we also have aluminum, which is usually used in pistol cartridges because it is very light, very cost effective. However, it is not good for reloading, and people don't usually reload pistol cartridges, so that's where they use it. The material affects the pressure, tolerances, and cost of every cartridge. Details that matter whether you're a soldier, a hunter, or just a cartridge geek, like the rest of us. So military cartridges often come sealed around the primer and around the bullet to keep out moisture and increase shelf life. You might even see colored lacquer around the primer, like I have here. It's not just fashion, it's function. It can help identify special rounds or even countries of origin, which I don't know why this one is green, but I probably should have looked into it before I did this video, obviously. Oh crap. So that's the Centerfire cartridge. Whether you're punching holes in paper or depending on your rifle in the field, it is your best friend. From its 19th century roots to today's more modern advanced rounds, Centerfire tech has changed the game forever. I mean, it truly did spark a whole line of many cartridges, as we have thousands to get through. Well, I don't know about thousands, hundreds. I didn't really count yet. I just know there is a lot. So that is why I'm still not quite sure if I'm going to loop or group some of these together and do like packages of them per video, because I don't know how much history I'm going to be able to stretch out per video if I did one by one. My plan is to go in order, starting with Centerfire cartridges, but I don't know if I'll have enough content per bullet to actually do one video per bullet. So we'll figure that out eventually though. So now that you've got the basics down, it's time to start our journey into cartridge history. Every cartridge has a story, and we're gonna dive into that quite a bit. And I'm very excited for this channel. I'm excited to go on this journey with y'all, and I think this is gonna be fun. Next episode, we'll meet the man who kind of started it all, Clement Pate, or the father of the modern Centerfire shell, like here. He's the one who created the Centerfire design. He just happened to do it in a shotgun shell. Until then, keep your powder dry and your heads down, and we'll see y'all later. Now, I realize I didn't really introduce myself all that much. I mostly just did this little pilot episode for my YouTube channel, but I want to add this in. I'm doing it at the end of my recording because, I don't know, this is when I decided to do it. I didn't know where to fit it in. So my name is Ricky. I am from Texas, as I've mentioned in the video. So this is my first YouTube video ever. I'm very excited. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but I couldn't think of what I wanted the channel to be about, and I thought of this idea to do every single bullet cartridge ever made all on one channel. And I thought it was cool, and as far as I can tell, I can't really find anybody who's done exactly the same thing, so I am super excited about it. I think I found this cool little niche, and I would like to dive into it. And I've always had this passion for teaching people things. However, I am not the teacher type, I would say. I don't think I could be a teacher, but like, as you can tell, I love Star Wars. If my girlfriend asked me anything about Star Wars, the tiniest little question could turn into a 3-hour explanation from me, because I enjoy telling people things about things that I am passionate about, And so I thought this would be a cool way to do that. And you know, I don't know all this stuff. I'm going to be researching and learning along the way, just like you guys, but I am going to be compiling all the information together for you. And I'm excited to do that. So yeah, I'm hoping for this to be a very educational channel for me and my audience, if I ever get one. But yeah, you'll notice I'm not very good at editing. This is going to take me a while. This is my 30,000th time doing this video. I did one yesterday that I liked a lot, and then I went through it and realized, wow, that's a lot of times I say which I still did it a lot in this video, but it's still less than that one. And to fix that, I was going to just do like an counter, because I thought that'd be kind of funny, but it got to like 30 really quick. So I was like, you know what, let's redo that. But yeah, so this is me, and I'm excited to be here. So have a good day.